Welcome to Mini Fights. I'm your host Brian, and today I am playing Kyle. The mission we ended up with is Riots spark over extremists, and Spider infected invade Manhattan. This kind of creates a circle of 9 points of interest on the table, 4 of them static and 5 of them to be picked up. Oh, Kyle has priority, and with his first action, he's going to activate Doc Ock. Climbs down off the auto parts store, snatches up the Spider infected, and does a second advance move to the extremist console there on the left hand side. My activation, Killmonger advances forward, and in a shocking turn of events, advances forward again and picks up the middle Spider infected. And Kyle's Captain Marvel's going to advance forward onto the sort of middle console on his side, the home base console, checks her range, and energy blasts my Killmonger. And after her built-in reroll, she's going to end up doing 1 point of damage to him. My Okoye advances forward and ends up advancing forward a second time, hiding herself behind the size 4 dump truck, staying within bodyguard range of Killmonger. Kyle activates his Alpine Captain America, double walks, picks up a Spider infected, ends his activation. The Wakandan affiliated Ultron advances, captures a Spider infected civilian, and advances again, flying himself over the Daily Bugle to land on the right side extremist console. Kyle's Baron Zemo hustles up the field, taking 2 advanced moves. The second one's going to end him on the extremist console there next to Doc Ock. So for my activation, I end up moving Shuri up, picking up the Spider infected. And she's looking at that Zemo and Ock there and a little concerned about the amount of kind of firepower they've got. She decides to Panther Gauntlets Zemo there on the left, deals a point of damage, generates a few power, pushes him back. The typical Shuri activation. She's all done. Iron Man surges forward, lines up a repulsor blast onto the Wakandan Ultron, and this is going to end up dealing a total of 2 damage to him, but more importantly, pushing him off of the extremist console, costing me a victory point at the end of the round. So after some deliberation on trying to figure out how to get my 1 power Black Panther up into the fight there and maybe push Ock off the point, I decided to use advanced R&D, and that's going to push a total of 2 power off of Shuri, 1 to Black Panther and 1 to Killmonger. Black Panther is going to advance up, use Mantle to Black Panther, which he now has enough power to do because it costs 2, and strike Ock. This ends up doing 4 damage after all the rerolls and such, and it's going to push Ock off of the point. You can see we had a little question there of whether we're going to collide with the post, but we ended up figuring out that he does fit through there. Had a third party holding the tools, but we got there. I think we were reasonably accurate with that. It may not be quite perfect as far as how far he went, but we got there. And then the last thing he does is he pounces onto the point, we're using the power that he just got from the strike. So really strong activation, did a bunch of damage, pushed Ock off, and scored me a VP. And speaking of VPs, that's the end of the round. I'm going to end up scoring 4 to Kyle's 3. I have 3 of the infected. He has 2. I have 1 console, and he has 2. Now the round begins, and we have to determine, are the Spider infected going to kind of struggle with their captors and move them around? The civilian that Cap's holding does end up moving him. My Ultron does not get moved. Kyle's Doc Ock does get moved. Killmonger stays put. And Shuri does get dragged forward by her captured spider infected. Kyle activates his nearly dazed Doc Ock and does an energy blast on Shuri. And despite her kind of relatively poor defenses overall, she ends up only taking 2 points of damage from it. He then strikes her for another point, and then Ox Clutches throws her into Black Panther, leaving her on 1 stamina remaining. Black Panther makes his dodge roll and takes no damage. King of Wakanda activates, pounces on Zemo, dealing 2 damage to him with his claws, and strikes him. Now, this strike dice roll didn't go great for me. Zemo ended up, I believe, with 3 defenses to my 3 hits. So it was in a little bit of a jam, but I used 2 power off of Shuri using upgrades to reroll 2 dice. And that is enough to daze Zemo. Spent my last action walking back to the console and used a power to heal Shuri for 1 damage because she was on 1 HP otherwise. Kyle activates his Danvers, who is still within energy blast range of my Killmonger, and decides to energy blast him. However, Okoye is close enough to bodyguard, so she stands in front of the shot, and after all the dust settles and the rerolls are done, takes 2 points of damage. And that was lucky for me. That actually put the 2 power on her, so the second shot who comes into Killmonger, Okoye has just enough to bodyguard that one as well. Unfortunately for her, she's going to take another 2 damage, which is on the dot enough to daze her. But ultimately she saved Killmonger, who also had 4 HP left. Ultron advances onto the console and Energy Blasts Iron Man. The Energy Blast initially does, I think, 2 net successes. I decided to use Analyze and Annihilate, I believe it's called, the superpower that lets him get extra dice from Kyle's crits. That ends up putting it up to a total of 2 damage dealt and 2 power gained. Kyle's Iron Man activates, calls up Friday AI, and Repulsor blasts my Ultron. After I end up using a Wakanda reroll, I end up taking a point of damage on my Ultron, and of course, because Kyle rolled a wild, he gets pushed off the point. A recurring theme of this game. Nobody gets to stand on consoles. With Iron Man's second action, Kyle decides to try out homing rockets. His roll was pretty solid, but so was mine, and I end up only taking a point of damage to Ultron. My wounded Shuri climbs up on top of the size 4 dump truck, checks range, and is within 5 of Danvers. Not generally a great idea to attack Danvers with an energy attack, but the point here is not really to damage her, it's just to push her off the console, because that's what we do in this game. And that's generally how it's going to work out. I end up, after all the dice rolling clears, I end up giving Danvers a power because she rolls a wild in her attack, dealing no damage. But I do generate a power because Shuri always generates power off that attack, and the push is automatic. And the push is just going to end up shoving her into the Dodge Viper there. And as you can see, she's not within range 1 of the console anymore, which was the primary objective of that activation. The snow camo Captain America ends up walking forward, and walking forward again to claim the right side extremist console. And I think I'm out of things to push dudes off of consoles, so he is actually going to score some VPs here. We'll see at the round end, but pretty sure. Killmonger's licking his chops, thinking about charging Danvers. The only tricky part here is that his vibranium weapons are energy, and he doesn't have the power to do his other physical attack yet. So we take the risk and we do it, and it ends up shaking out to the point where she doesn't really roll enough wilds to overcome the pierce, and he deals 3 damage to her. That 3 damage is exactly enough to fully power his physical attack, and that is going to end up dazing her, dealing another 3. He also, because he hit the wild, it gets to reposition, and he repositions onto the console there. So real strong Killmonger activation, dazes Danvers, and ends up scoring me a VP. And that's going to end the round. Kyle's going to go to 6 VPs total, and I'm going to go to 9. Now as round 3 starts, we start the wrestling match with the Spider Infected. So Cap is going to get moved. Ultron is going to get moved. Doc Ock does not get moved. Killmonger does get moved. And last up is my Shuri, who gets to keep her position on top of the dump truck. Kyle activates his Doc Ock because he's only on 1 stamina remaining, and strikes my Black Panther. This ends up dealing 1 point of damage, but it does power him up enough to do an arm laser, and that arm laser is going to end up actually dazing my Black Panther, dealing 5 damage to him. So pretty awesome, Doc Ock. Killmonger, he's powered up, and Danvers is sitting there with a lot of power on her, and if he can kill her, that'd be great. So he's going to charge her. He's going to end up doing a total of 2 damage here, and managed to dodge the pile of wilds that she could have rolled, which is always the concern with the energy attacks. Do it a second time, and because I hit a wild, I'm able to actually convert her wild into a blank and end up dealing another 2. So she's got 3 stamina remaining at this point. She has to die or she's going to blow up everything. So I use Wakanda Forever. Killmonger spends a power, hits her with the vibranium weapons, and without any dice manipulation, deals the 3, and she is knocked out. But Wakanda's not done. Shuri's going to take her attack, firing her Panther Gauntlets into the 1 HP, 1 stamina remaining Doc Ock, and she is able to daze him. Now he is going to drop a Spider Infected. I would love her to capture it, but she's already holding on to 1, and they're big, so you can't hold 2. So I ended up just dropping it there on the street. Back to Kyle. He's probably a little annoyed about how that ended up shaking out. His Zemo does a Master Swordsman strike charge into my Shuri. Now, I am pointing out to him that Okoye is in bodyguard range of Shuri. He's all right with it. So we go ahead and start rolling a whole bunch of dice. And there's all kinds of rerolls here. But ultimately, when the dust settles, Okoye takes 3 damage and is sitting with 1 stamina remaining. And Kyle decides to do it again. Okoye does have the power to bodyguard it, and with her 1 remaining stamina is instantly killed. And rest in peace, Okoye. You did absolutely great job this game. Shuri, who's furious at the death of her friend, walks over to the console, adjusts her position a little bit, and Panther Gauntlets Zemo. This ultimately deals no damage, but does push Zemo further away and off the console itself. And before her activation ends, she's going to end up also healing herself off the console by spending 1 power. Back to the other side of the table, Cap advances to the point, holding the Extremis console, and throws his shield at Ultron. This deals no damage. It would trigger Ricochet, but there's nothing quite close enough to Ultron to bounce the shield off into. Ultron advances and advances again onto the Extremis console, heals himself for a point, and ends his activation. You can see by this move that I'm tired of him getting pushed off of points. Well, Tony Stark and Cap are also just tired of Ultron. They team up and do a Ricochet blast. So it's Iron Man's activation. He gets to use the attack that's listed on top of the card there. He does not have enough power, unfortunately, to do a Friday AI. It's going to be all of his power to do the ricochet. But ultimately, it is a big roll with a full reroll. And it is going to deal enough damage to my Ultron to daze him. And as Ultron falls, the spider-infected civilian falls out of his iron grasp. Although we sort of messed this up procedurally, I think Iron Man moves first and then we put the spider-infected down. Iron Man did not have enough power to pick it up. He was empty, so it's just going to end up right there next to him. That is going to end the round. Even with Ultron going down there at the end of the round, this was a pretty good one for me. I'm going to end up scoring 4 to Kyle's 2. I've got 2 spider-infected still, 2 consoles. He has a console and a infected. So the score at this point is going to be 13-8 going into round 4. And Kyle's really going to have to kick my ass in this next round to stay in this game. Infected wrestling. Killmonger doesn't move. Shuri doesn't move. Cap does move. So with my first activation, I walk Black Panther to that position there, trying to still hold the console and be within 2 of Zemo. Black Panther has a lot of power on him, so I hit him with the fully tuned up kinetic burst, mantle the Black Panther, 9 dice with full rerolls, and delete Zemo from existence. As you do. Black Panther, natural predator of Zemos everywhere. And back to the right side of the table, Iron Man's going to activate. He picks up the spider-infected, advances towards Killmonger, and unleashes a repulsor blast at him. Killmonger's pretty fragile, doesn't really love energy attacks, but this one's kind of a dud. And Killmonger dodges it very well. No damage. Activate my Ultron. And he throws the Daily Bugle at Cap. Cap's going to brace for impact and just spend a power to take no damage, which is smart. That's a 4 damage attack coming in at him. Ultron then Energy Blast Cap and deals no damage. And he's going to do it again. Also dealing no damage. So Ultron's been a little bit of a wet noodle offensively this game, but ultimately him not dying is pretty sweet. Back over to Kyle. His Doc Ock is going to strike Shuri, ending up just dealing a point of damage. He's going to spend a second action point walking over and picking up the spider infected with his last power. Back to me, activate my Shuri. She's going to Panther Gauntlets Doc Ock. Deal no damage, but push him down the street towards the waiting unactivated Killmonger. She's still in range. She's going to do it again. And I believe this one does 1 point of damage with a Wakanda reroll. And he's going to get shoved all the way down into the blue card down there. And she also heals herself for 1 damage from the console. All white Captain America advances. And advances again to stand on the console that's closest to me. And the last activation of the round is going to be my Killmonger. And Shuri has fed him a nice Doc Ock. Doesn't even have to move, although he is going to move because he's got enough power to do a charge and use the Battle Lust card. So really just the movement here just is giving me the ability to use Battle Lust and take a second attack if I need it. Take a big swing with the Vibranium weapons and with the various rerolls from Wakanda and the kill tokens. I end up smoking Doc Ock, and he's dead and out of the game. And that is the end of the round. So that wraps up round 4 as far as scoring goes. I'm going to go to, it looks like I believe 19 or 18 at this point. Kyle is going to end up at 11. was a good effort for him. He, I think this is his fourth or fifth game total, you know, including like using full rosters and the whole deal. And some of the Wakanda stuff he hadn't really seen yet. So kind of a learning game for him. I think he may end up with a maybe an undeserved fear of Killmonger's. This was like the dream Killmonger game. Really, this was the dream Okoye game. Okoye is what won me this game. By standing behind that dump truck and getting to bodyguard 4 times, she effectively saved Shuri from death and Killmonger from death, or from being dazed, I should say, both times. Dying in the process, but totally worth it, and it put me up in an attritional advantage and a positional advantage that I was able to kind of ride to victory. So that's the end of the game, and that is the end of our 7th battle report. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoy some of the new graphics with the Crisis and Tactics cards and such. And if you liked what you saw, click like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.